Grade 8, this is lesson 47, hier is nou al les 47, ons is besig, weer eens met wortels, it's roots again, square roots, cube roots, so die goed wat jy reeds weet, al jou vierkantsgetalle, al jou derdemaksgetalle, moet jy nog steeds gebruik, you're still using your cubes, your cubic numbers and your square numbers. So as ek vir jou vra om van my enigstens ooit met 'n gemengde getal te breek, is jou eerste stap maak om 'n onreg te breek. First thing you do, if there's a mixed number, you make it an improper fraction by saying 2 times 7 is 14, plus 2 gives me 16. Divided by, was it 7? Let me just check. I knew there had to be something wrong with it. The sum is written down wrong. Let's do it again. 2 times 9 is 18, plus 7 gives you 25. And then the 9 stays 9. Hoe het jy nou geweet is verkeerd? Because this, which is inside of a square root, should be square numbers for a grade 8 child. This should be square numbers, and 25 and 9 are, but just now the previous one it was going to be a 7 and that's not a square number. Ek weet hierdie moet vierkantsgetalle wees, en toe was myne sou gewees het, wat ek kan nou nie onthou nie of het 16 op 7 was, en 7 is nie 'n vierkantsgetal nie, hierdie goed moet vierkantsgetalle wees. How can I also do this on the calculator? You take that 3 blocky thingy and you punch it in, and then you just press equal, it's going to give it to you as an improper fraction. Druk daai ding in met 2, 7 en 9, 2, 7, 9, press equals and it gives it to you like this. Nou weet jy mos, jy moet die vierkantsvorm van 25 kry wat 5 is, and you get the square root of 9, which is 3, and that's it. Don't write 1 and 2/3, it's right, 1 and 2/3, but leave it as it is, 5/3. Go back again, do the blocky thingy, doen blokkie, 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 en sit hom in 'n wortel. So jy sê wortel, die blokkie ding, 2, 7, 9 is, sak ek nog hier onmiddellik vir die antwoord, but I need the middle step. Don't throw away marks because you leave away steps. Vir hierdie enetjie, is dit niks om te doen nie, want is klaar net een breek, it's only one fraction. If it's a mixed number, make it a normal fraction. Dan gaan jy mos nou sê, derdemakswortel van 3 is 1, and the cube root of 27 is 3. That's why you need to know your cube numbers. 1 to the 3 is 1, 2 to the 3 is 8, 3 to the 3 is 27. Jy moet jou derdemaksgetalle ken. 1 tot die derde mag is 1, 2 tot die derde mag is 8, 3 tot die derde mag is 7, 20. Daarom sal jy hom dadelik gaan kry. Could I put this whole thing in the calculator? Yes. Remember, there is a cube root sign on your calculator. Then you press the blocky thingy, and you press in 1 at the top, 27 at the bottom. Answer is 1/3. Ken jou sakrekenaar. Wees gereed en in staat om te kan werk. If you don't know your calculator, you're throwing away marks. You didn't sell it then, so you can go to your calculator, press in cube root, very important cube root. There is that one that says you can put it in there yourself. So if you go there, you can put in 3, 4, 5, any root size. You are just busy with cube roots and square roots in grade 8. So cube roots, and then inside you're going to have your fraction. Where does that minus belong? Just where you want it to be. It's actually at the 64, that's where they've written it, but that minus can be at the top, or right in front, or at the bottom, it doesn't matter. If you know your stuff, you should be able to tell me immediately that the negative in a cube root will be negative. As daar 'n minus in 'n ewe wortel is, gaan jy onmiddellik sê jy kan nie antwoord kom nie, dis nie reëel. The moment it's a minus inside of a square root, you would immediately say no, non-real. Not no solution, non-real. Nie geen oplossing nie, nie reëel. Maar as daar 'n minus is en hy is in 'n onewe wortel, sal die antwoord moet 'n minus wees en daar is 'n antwoord. And the cube root of 64 is 4, and die derdemakswortel van 125 is 5, en kyk of jou sakrekenaar dieselfde antwoord gee. If I did it with a calculator or without, my answer looks the same, so I don't know you use your calculator, I'm teaching you to do it. Right, gemengde getal, immediately you must make it an improper fraction. 3 times 8 is 24, plus 3 is 27 and 8. And I'm immediately happy with those two numbers in a cube, because it's a cube number and a cube number. Jy moet weet, dit moet alles derdemaksgetalle wees. En die derdemaal van 27 is 3, and the cube root of 8 is 2. Calculator, if you press that in as is, cube root, then the 3 blocky with 3, 3, 8 equals, answers immediately to 3 over 2. You're going to get 1 out of a possible 2, because the first mark is doing it in improper fraction. Eerste punt is om dit in 'n onegte breek te skryf en dan die tweede punt vir die antwoord. Now it's getting a little bit more difficult because you have to do square root and cube root. So it's separate sum, 2 steps, 2 marks. So vierkantswortel van 81 is 9, vierkantswortel van 10 is, van 100 is 10. So you just do square roots, square number of what? Of 9 and of 10. So 9 over 10, 1 mark. Then we've got plus, but it's a cube root of a minus. So actually you're going to have a plus times a minus there. Minus is going to be the answer if it's a cube. Daar's net 'n minus antwoord as daar 'n derde maagse wortel is. En dit is nie reël nie, dit is 'n antwoord van minus. En derde maagse wortel van 1 is 1. And cube root of 8 is 2. Now if you did want to leave out that step and immediately tell me that it's minus, dis reg. As jy direk geweet het hierdie gaan 'n minus maar 'n plus wees wat 'n minus is en dadelik geskryf het 9 op 10 minus half, immediately I would be happy with you. What you should actually now do is it's fractions. So in fractions when I add, so now we're doing something extra that we haven't been doing with the rest. We are adding fractions. Wat's die reël as jy breuke optel of aftrek? Adding or subtracting is LCD of KG. V en die KGV van 10 en 2 is 10. So what did you do to 10? You kept it the same. What did you do to 2? You times with 5. So you must time the minus 1 with 5. So it's minus 5. KGV. Kan ek dit skryf as 9 op 10 en 5 op 10? Yes, you can separately write it or together like this. And then your answer is 4 over 10. And the better way of writing that simplified is 2 goes in 2 times and 2 goes in 5 times. So dat as jy van die begin af die hele ding ingetik het in jou sakrekenaar, so hy vir jou 2 vyfdes gegee het. If you type the whole thing, square root, blocky, 81, 100, get out of the square root, say plus, cube root inside with a blocky, minus 1 and 8, get out of there, under the root sign and press equals, your answer gives you 2 over 5. So jy moet alles stappie vir stappie indruk. Vierkantswortel 2 blokkies 8100. Kom uit onder die wortel plus. Derde maagse wortel druk jy, binne in die wortel druk jy blokkie 1 en 8, kom daar uit onder die wortel, sê is gelyk aan en jou antwoord is 2 op 5. So this would be worth 1 out of a possible 1, 2, 3, a possible 4 approximately marks. So stappie vir stappie. Hierdie netjie selfe storie vir eerstens weer die derde magswortel. Derde magswortel van 1 bly 1, want 1 kwadraat en 1 tot die 3 en 1 tot die 6 en 1 tot die 7000 bly nog steeds 1. 1 to any power is 1. So 1 in any root is 1. So what is the 101th root of 1? Will still stay 1. Jy moet dit weet. 1 tot die enige mag en 1 in enige wortel is 1. And 1 in any root and 1 to any power stays 1. Cube root of 27 is 3. En dan hier so weer 'n keer is 'n min en 'n plus daar. Daar gaan 'n minus antwoord wees. Vierkantswortel is 4. Square root of 9 is 3. So in ander woorde, jy het weer eens vierkantsgetalle gebruik. Use your square numbers. Know your square numbers. Now again I've got LCD, but what a bargain. The LCD is already there. Dis klaar ge-KGV. Dis dieselfde noemer, jy hoef nie selfe een te kry nie. It's the same denominator, you don't have to get the same denominator. So all you need to do is to say 1 minus 4 is minus 3 over still 3. Want onthou as jy optel, tel jy net die noemers tellers bymekaar en die noemers bly wat dit was. When you add, you keep the denominator, but the numerators are added. So it's 1 minus 4, which gives me minus 3. If you wanted to put in another step, to show yourself as one big fraction, 1 groot breek, 3 is die noemer, 1 minus 4 bo, dan kan jy mooier sien dalk dat daar is minus 3 op 3. And I'm still not finished because that answer is minus divided by plus is a minus, and 3 goes into 3, not nothing, once. Reg. last two homework sums. Vierkantswortel, square root, cube root. Derde makswortel. Know your square numbers, know your cube numbers. Ken jou vierkantsgetalle, ken jou derde maksgetalle. Vierkantswortel van 4 is 2, vierkantswortel van 9 is 3. The square roots of 4 is 2 and 3 of 9 is 3. Maar nou is dit maal. The previous ones were adding and subtracting. Now is dit maal. So I've got cube root of a minus. It's going to be a minus. Now this is a problem. We don't want to write times minus next to each other, so keep it in a bracket. Daarom gaan ons sê derde makswortel van 27 wat jy moet ken as 3. You must know it. And you must know that 125 cube rooted is 5. You know that. Now when I time, I can cancel out. Because this plus is part of this one, of the minus. You're not cancelling out over a plus, it's multiplication. Ander ding wat jy kon doen is om eers te sê, a plus maal a min is a min. That's one thing, one way of doing it. If you say, when I time, I say plus times minus is a minus and the minus is gone. So that you can see the 3's cancelling out. And you're left with 2 times 1 is 2 at the top, 1 times 5 is 5 at the bottom. Anomaly, different method. You would say that plus 2 times minus 3 is minus 6 at the top, and 3 times 5 at the bottom is 15. And still, when you simplify, 3 goes 2 times, 3 goes 5 times, you still got 2 over 5 with a minus in front. Sien jy, daar's altyd 'n alternatiewe tegniek wat jy kan gebruik. Beautiful that there's always different techniques as well, but you got to know what you're doing to have the correct techniques. Goed, so jy hoef nie daai te gewys het nie, maar dan kom jy sien jy kan uitgekanselleer het. Last one is a division. Nou my deel moet jy mos omdraai, maar jy draai eers om as hierdie ding klaar gedoen is. You only swap it around if this is finished. So let's first do the square root of 16. Wat is die vierkantswortel van 16? Wat 4 is en van 25 wat? 5 is, but it's still division. I haven't done division going into multiplication. Keep it like that. Cube root of 8 is 2. Cube root of 27, wat is die derde makswortel van 27? Dis 3. En nou gaan ek sê, maar deel word maal van daai ding se omgekeerde of resiprook. Division becomes multiplication and you flip so that it's 5 over 4. Division of a fraction is the same as multiplication by its reciprocal or swapped around. So we've got 2 over 3. En nou het jy weer eens die opsie van, of jy sê 2 maal 5 is 10 and 3 times 4 is 12, but you don't leave it like that, we always leave it in simplified form. Of jy kon gesê 2 gaan daarin, 2 keer, and you left with 1 times 5 is 5 at the top, 3 maal 2 onder is 6, en daai is ook 5 op 6. How would I get this as 5 over 6? Because 2 goes in 5 times and 2 goes in 6 times. Any which way you get to the right answer. So you can first cancel out, which I prefer because then it doesn't make your life harder later on. Or if you can first time and then simplify, it's both correct if you work it out right. Then we are doing a little word problem again. When we did word problems the previous time, I said to you, we're not concentrating too much on that this year, because this is usually the higher level question, which only the guys that get 80 and 90% usually can do correctly. But I'm doing that so that we can just get a little bit of exposure to that. Jy moet hom nou en dan net 'n woordsommetjie kan sien. En die woordsomme gaan oor breuke. It's about fractions. So exercise 13.7, dis hoofstuk oefening 13.7 sê, Tabo het R500. En hy gaan 2/5 daarvan vir sy dogter gee. So Tabo has R500 and he gives 2/3 of the money to his daughter, half of the rest of the money for his one son, al helfte van die dit wat oor is vir sy seun. En dan staan daar 'n ander seun wat oorbly. So just to get a picture, I know he's got a daughter, 'n dogter en 'n seun en nog 'n seun. So he's got one daughter and 2 sons. One of the daughters got 2/5 of the money, and then half of the rest of the money he gives to his son. Not half the money, not half of 500, which is 250, half of the rest of the money. So I'm just going to work out how much is the rest, so that I can work out what the actual other son gets. Why doesn't he just
try and be fair and give everybody the same amount, a third. Okay, maar dis nou nie die vraag nie. Die dogter kry 2/5. So what have you got to do? Little by little.
So we're going to say the daughter gets 2/5 of, and of or van, 2/5 of 500 of 2/5 van 500. Beteken mos dit word 'n maalsom. So of becomes multiplication, and you're busy with fractions. So 5 can go in 100 times, and we're left with 2 times 100 is 200 over 1 times 1 is 1. So the girl is getting 200 rand. That's the daughter. Then the first son,
Number one son, let's not say the number one son, one of the two sons gets half of what was left. What is left? Dis nie 200 nie, wat is oor nadat die dogter haar 200 rand gevat het?
Helfte van die
300 rand wat oor is, half of the 300 that's left. So you got to keep your mind focused.
Now, half of 300 everybody knows is 150, but you can show it by showing half of and times, and it cancels out, and we've got 150 rand for son number 1. And then it says, how much money does the other guy gets what's left, and how much of his dad's money does the second son then get? Now, if you did what I did and said, well then the other son also gets half. The other son number 2, has to also get 150 because then it adds up to 300.
Now the question wasn't how much does he get. Die vraag was nie wat kry die ander seun nie, want dis logies. As die meisie 200 gekry het en die seun het 150 gekry, dan moet die ander tog ook 150 kry. Maar nou vra hulle vir jou, wat se breekdeel kry die ander seun?
Nou, ons het gesê dis helfte van die 300,
maar wat se gedeelte is dit dan van die 500?
So, what fraction, of wat se breek, is 150 uit die totale geld wat die pa gehad het. From the total amount of his money, what fraction did the father give to the second son? So what is 150 over 500? Do you see why we say word problems are a higher level sum? Because it's a little bit more difficult. Dit is 'n bietjie moeiliker. What fraction does the dad give to the second son? What fraction of his money? So he gives him 150 out of 50, and now you've been taught how to do that. You can put it in the calculator, or you can say, well, wait. 50 can go in there 3 times, and 50 can go in there 10 times. And if you couldn't see that, and you wanted to first say, let's say 2 goes 75, 2 goes 250, let's try 5 goes, and eventually get to your answer, that's fine. But can you put onto your calculator 150 over 300 with the blocky, and it'll give you 3 over 10, dis mos reg. How will you be able to test yourself? Because I'm only going to do the one sum, just so you can wrap your head around fractions. Ek gaan net vir julle een woordsommetjie doen. Ek gaan nie vir jou gee om te gaan oefen nie. Net so dat jy kan onthou, daar is ons ken ons breuke. Ons kan breuke maal, we can time fractions, we can get simplified fractions. It's all part of your work, but the idea is just what's the wording behind it. Hoe sal ek myself kan toets? This means that if I take 2/5 and this was 3/10, how much was this guy? Was he not also 150 is also 3/10 then? Hierdie was altyd dieselfde. So the other son also should have gotten 3/10. How much should this give you? 1 whole. As jy die 2/5 en die 3/10 en die 3/10 bymekaar tel, moet dit mos 1 hele gee. Die pa se geld wat hy uitdeel is 1 hele. But he's breaking it up into fractions. 1 whole pot full of 500 rand money, and then if I divide all the fractions out, those fractions should add up to 1 whole. Is hierdie 1 hele? Kom ons kyk. If we do go and simplify and get the LCD, which is 10, so I'm timing with 2 is 4, 10 stays 10, so 3 stays 3, 10 stays 10, 3 stays 3. Met ander woorde, my antwoord is 1 whole.
1 hele, wat beteken my som moet reg wees. You're not going to do this, but it's just showing you, once he's taken his money and sorted it out, that should all add up to one whole. It's like taking a cake and breaking it up into fractions. All the fractions, if everything's eaten up, should give you one whole cake. Right. So don't stress too much about word problems. You know how to time it, you know how to divide it, you know how to add it with LCD, but the word problems can sometimes be a little bit difficult, and that's only for the guys that get like 80 and 90%. And this year, they said don't focus on word problems, so we're not going to focus on word problems. Okay, so we're busy with the fractions, ons is nog steeds besig met die breuke. Hierdie lyk ook soos 'n woordsommetjie. It does look like a word problem, but it's a divide into a certain ratio. If you get some situation that you and a friend have shared some money, but you only got a little bit, they've got more money, and you buy biltong or sweets or oranges or whatever, then you can't expect to get half-half if you didn't put in the money half-half. As jy en 'n vriend van jou besluit om sweets te gaan koop by die kaf of wat ook al, maar jy sit min geld in en hy sit baie geld in, dan kan jy tog nie die goed helfte verdeel nie, behalwe as jou maatjie jou baie like nie. Maybe they like you very much and they say, okay, now let's go half-half. But normally what happens is like in a big company, we invest. If I invest $1 million and you only invest $500,000, you can't get the same rewards as I do in investments. As ons byvoorbeeld R1 miljoen ek insit en jy net op 5,5 miljoen, gaan ons, wat ons uitkry uit rente of dividende, wat ook al die geld is wat die plek maak, gaan ek en jy dit nie split 50-50 nie. We split it in a certain ratio. Jy gaan dit verdeel in 'n sekere verhouding. So, hier's my voorbeeld. Max gives R5. I didn't write this in Afrikaans as well. Max gee R5 en Sam gee R7. En dan kry hulle 24 sweeties. They get 24, so let's say you're at the cough. So you are buying 24 sweets. How much does each get? If you're very lucky, your friend says, no wait, let's both just take 12. But normally the guy that gives less will get less, and the one who gives more will get more. So now what's the story? So you take the total amount of money and you say, but that guy gave R5 out of the R12. So with Max, his share, jou deel, Max se deel sal wees 5/8/12. 5/12 is wat was daar ingesit het. So obviously Sam, his share sal wees 7/12, which makes up the whole pot, the money that I took to get the sweets. So it's 5 out of 12 and 7 out of 12, which you don't have to both work out, because if you know the one answer, obviously what's left of the sweets is the other guys. But that is the amount of, or van, die 24 sweeties. So this guy should get 5/12 of 24. Hierdie ou moet 5/12 van die 24 sweeties kry. And of becomes multiplication, so that again, with your multiplication rules, gaan jy mos nou uitkanselleer. 12 gaan daar in 2 keer en dit gee vir my 10 sweeties. Which obviously means that this guy has got to get 14. But just to show you that it's correct, so it should be 7/12 of the 24 again, cancelling out, and 7 times that is 14 sweets. Now nobody's stopping you to do both sums. Jy kan al twee somme doen, maar dit moet ook dan na 24 toe. As jy daar gekom het en jy dadelik vir my sê, therefore, the other guy should get 14 because that's what's left of the 24, that's perfect. But the main idea is, if they don't give half-half, they can't share half-half. They can't take the 24 and give 12/12. They've got to share it in the same proportion. They've got to share it in the same ratio, which is a fraction. So what ratio must he get? He gave 5, he gave 7, so they gave 12. So it's 5/12 and 7/12. Dan gaan jy 5/12 en 7/12 van die 24 sweeties moet gaan deel. Let's do another one before I give you homework on this.
So let's say that there are 3 people or 10 people or 100, the same principle applies. Hoeveel het ook al is wat gaan insit. Joe and Pete and Sean, they each gave 12 rand, 15 rand, 8 rand, so he gave the least, he should be getting the least. Of 105, let's keep it at sweets. So they bought 105 sweets. I don't know what the sweets cost, but their money bought 105 sweets. So therefore, this guy will get 12 shares, 15 shares and 8 shares of what? Of the how much? So he gave 12 and 15 is 27 and 8 is 35. So there are 35 rand in total. That's why Joe's share, Joe's deal, is 12.85 rand. That's the share of Joe, 12 out of 35 of the 105 sweets. So jy moet eers gaan optel hoeveel geld was daar, want hy dan nou 12.35 rand gegee. The second one, Pete, sy deal, his share would be 15 out of the 35. Of becomes multiplication 105. We're going to do the sum just now. And obviously then Sean, well, his share of sy deal sal wees 8.85. But the 35, nobody told me that. I had to add them and say, well, all the money together is 35. So 12 out of 35 is a share of the whole. 15 out of 35 is a share of the whole. Dis 'n gedeelte van die hele pot geld wat daar sit. En dan 8.35 of 105. So we'll do 3 sums, and you don't need to do 3 sums. After I know 2 answers, I can just see what's left of the sweets for the third one. Maar jy kan al 3 somme doen. Beginsel is net, jy moet gaan sê 12.35 is van die 105. 15.35 is van die 105. 8.35 is van die 105. So the whole story is, it's 12 out of 35 of the 105, 15 out of 35 of the 105, 8 out of 35 of the 105. And then you take our calculator again because of becomes multiplication. And 35 goes into 105, exactly 3 times. I chose it that way so that it works nicely. But could you get fractions? Yeah. I just don't know how you're going to share the sweets if there's fractions. Bite a piece off and give it to somebody else. Maar jy kan mos nou dele hê. Gewoonlik in sommetjies wil ons nie hê dit moet 'n vreeslike storie afgee as ek wil sweeties wil deel nie. And then 3 times 12 is 36 sweets for Joe. Joe has to get less than him but more than him. Obviously because he gave more and less money than the others. Selfde storie, daar gaan weer 'n keer 3 keer ingaan. It should be 3 times all the time, don't you agree? Now 15 maal by 3 gee vir jou 45, and then you can add them up and tell me how many sweets that is, which would be 81, and what's left of the sweets, or you can just say 24. So 81 subtracted would give you 24. You could do the sum and get 24. Alternative, alternative, alternative. Daar's nooit net een manier om 'n som te doen nie. So as ek vir jou sê ek verdeel dit in hierdie selfde ding, dus the logical or the correct way, fair way, die regverdige manier is, iemand meer gegee het met die meeste kry. So he should be getting the most. Yes, he is getting the most. He should be getting the least, and he's getting the least sweets. And if you add them up, this must all add up to 105. Otherwise, if there's left, then you didn't share correctly. Dan doen jy vir my die volgende, gaan nou vir jou sê. So asseblief, dis oefening 13.8. Daarvan het ek vir jou voorbeelde ook gegee. Exercise 13.8, just number 1 and number 2. Fractions and sharing things in fraction form.